This comes to us from Abel, who is in San Antonio. He writes, Eddie, love the show. Just signed up for the SiriusXM app because of you. Well, thank you, Abel. He said, I got into it while recovering from a concussion. You definitely have helped me during this time. Well, thank you, Abel. I hope you're feeling better. I appreciate that. Very nice of you. He writes, hope one day you do an Iron Maiden top 20. I'll certainly get to that. Without a doubt, we will get to that. And that'll be tough, too. He continues, love the Damon Johnson interview. Question for you. Do you have an update on anything with the Pledgemusic situation, or if the bands you mentioned, like Queensryche, Uriah Heep, etc., had any headway with their situations? So what Abel's talking about is, if you missed that show, Damon Johnson, who is best known for Brother Kane and played with Alice Cooper, most recently Black Star Riders, he came on to talk about how Pledgemusic, that crowdfunding service, essentially ripped him and a lot of other artists off of money because they went bankrupt and took the money that was supposed to be distributed to the artist to fulfill these obligations to fans and to create projects that they were told they were helping to fund. And Abel, unfortunately, I don't have any other information, although I can tell you I just read about a company, and I can't quite understand how this was going to work, but this company, which apparently did merchandising and hats and T-shirts and things like that, was going to step in and offer musicians substantial discounts on buying merch from them to offset the damage from Pledgemusic. I'm sorry for being a little cryptic and not knowing all the ins and outs, but there was something that was in Billboard magazine, music industry trade paper, about this company that stepped forward because of so many people being screwed by Pledgemusic to offer assistance by doing deeply discounted merchandise deals. I don't know how that would help people exactly, except for maybe the artists who are screwed over could buy stuff to fulfill some stuff for their fans at a deeper discount. Didn't really quite understand it. When I find out more about that whole situation, I'll let you know. Damon's gig happened in Nashville. And I don't know how well that went and how much money that made in terms of helping to offset some of the damage. But it really is a crazy situation and really unfortunate, and seems like there's going to have to be more repercussions for it coming somewhere down the line. This one comes from Sandy Melvin. Sandy writes, first off, don't think I'm a psycho. Okay. I don't know where this is going, Sandy. What a way to start an email in the mailbag. Like I said, I don't pre-read these. First sentence, don't think I'm a psycho. Sandy writes, but I'm trying my best to get an autograph from either Vince Neil or Nikki Sixx. I've tried reaching out to them. I've been a fan since the 80s. Any insight on how to do this? I want them for a tattoo. I live in North Carolina, and Vince isn't touring close enough to hear. Thank you so much. All right, Sandy, first of all, I don't think you're a psycho. Secondly, as a guy that doesn't have a tattoo on my body, I think it's amazing that you love a band so much you're willing to tattoo their name or signatures on you. As far as getting that autograph, I honestly wouldn't know what to tell you, but sending in random notes or tweets or emails usually doesn't work. They usually wind up with a social media rep or a fan club rep or in a pile of emails or physical mail from, in a management company somewhere, and rarely does that work. Here's what I can tell you. Nikki Sixx is on Twitter and pretty active on Twitter, and he actually does his own tweeting. And he reads a lot of social media stuff. He apparently at times he will reply to fans on there And he will even do a Q&A on there called Ask Six. So my suggestion would maybe try that route. Maybe tweet Nikki and tell him what you want to do with the autograph and that you're going to have it stenciled in as a tattoo, and maybe there's, who knows, maybe you get lucky and he replies. As far as Vince, Vince is out there touring all the time. Now, he might not have a date at the moment in your area, but chances are if you keep an eye on his touring, he'll probably be coming somewhere pretty close. Vince Neil tours relentlessly. So my suggestion on Vince, who is also on Twitter, but I don't think Vince, and Vince does really tweet himself, but I don't think Vince is so, I don't think Vince does like Q&As with fans and stuff like Nikki does. So my suggestion to you for Vince, Sandy, would be to try to go to a show and then ask someone. You're not going to be able to walk right back there and do that, obviously, unless Vince is doing a meet and greet or something. But maybe if you can find somebody on the crew, maybe if you can write a note and write what you want to do with this autograph. To me, it is an incredibly flattering thing if somebody is willing to have your name put on their body. So, yeah, to just hold up a record and get a random autograph, okay, whatever. But if you're telling that person, hey, I want this because I'm going to tattoo it on me, maybe there's a chance they invite you back and take the 10 seconds to do that. I can't say. But try it at a show if it came to Vince, or Vince does appearances and things like that. And maybe you got a shot. I mean, I just know from my perspective, if somebody's telling me they're willing to autograph my name on them, I'll take the 10 seconds to sign. And by the way, there are about 2 or 3 people, believe it or not, in this world that I know that have my signature tattooed permanently on their body. 3 guys, by the way, that come to mind. And I'm laughing, but it is, to me, it's one of the most flattering things that somebody could ask you to do. I mean, that's for life, man. So, Sandy, my other bit of advice to you would be really think about that before doing it. All right? Good luck. Next email in the mailbag on Trunk Nation comes from Brian. Brian does not write where he's from. Dear Eddie, the other day you were talking about MTV and whether or not Beavis and Butt-Head was the first non-music program on the channel. Well, we later found out through some people that it was actually a Cindy Crawford fashion show. All right, so Brian continues. My question is, what's your opinion on Beavis and Butt-Head? Did you like it when it aired back in the 90s? Was that in the 90s? I guess it was. In my opinion, Beavis and Butt-Head is the best TV show ever. Whoa, that's strong, Brian. I'll take it over Seinfeld any day. Well, I'm not a big Seinfeld guy, so okay. He goes on to say, my only problem with the show is this. Beavis and Butt-Head were supposed to be metalheads. That's why they were originally conceived. And yet they always criticize metal bands and videos constantly. I mean, I would expect them to say that the so-called hair bands sucked because, unfortunately, everyone hated on those bands back in the 90s. But there were bands you would think Beavis and Butt-Head would like. Exodus, Overkill, Merciful Fate, to name a few, yet somehow they thought those bands sucked. At the same time, the only time B&B ever said a rap artist sucked was Vanilla Ice, whom everyone hates anyway. It all seemed incredibly inconsistent to me, and that always bothered me. The only theory I can come up with is that the executives at MTV must have put pressure on Mike Judge to have B&B put down metal videos and prop up rap because MTV hates metal and loves rap. So what do you think? Do you agree with me? Please let me know. It's a hell of an email. I love doing this. I love doing this because you guys are, and this was isolated for a promo, me saying this, so I know I've said it before, but you're as hardcore and as geeky as I am, and I love that. Brian, I think you've put way too much thought into this, if I'm being honest. I understand where you're going here. You're trying to understand why a cartoon and the guy who wrote it slammed some metal stuff when Beavis and Butt-Head were supposed to be into metal, yet then celebrated rap music at times. I don't think there was any real criteria given to what Beavis and Butt-Head slam and do not slam, beyond the fact of what the video looked like and the people in it. Remember, it was a visual thing. Music videos, visual. So I don't think it was so much about the music or the genre, more about what was happening in the video and what it was representing and if it was goofy or not, and just what they found in it to make fun of or embrace. So I wouldn't think too much into it. I don't think, as much as it would be fun to pile on MTV at that time, I don't think MTV had any real agenda telling Mike Judge, hey, make them like rap because that's the direction we're going in. I really don't. I just think it was case by case, and it was from the mind of Mike Judge, and whatever he thought at that time that made the most sense and was the most fun that he could have and poke at something is the direction he decided to take those characters in. As far as what I thought of Beavis and Butt-Head at the time, I loved it. I loved the show. Cornholio, the whole thing. I loved it. I loved it even if they goofed on bands that I loved. And most people did, because it wasn't, you couldn't take it seriously. It's a cartoon. I mean, the only person I think that got goofed on that didn't love it so much because it really, really hurt his career was Kip Winger. Because of Stewart wearing the shirt. And I've talked to Kip about that, and, Kip really, Winger really took it the hardest because it wasn't just a bit goofing on a video for 30 seconds. The uncool character wore the Winger shirt. So that really had a long effect, damaging effect on Winger at that time, who, ironically, are one of the most talented bands of that genre. Jason from Detroit Rock City writes, hey, Eddie, heard you say Black Sabbath may be the next top 20. While I'm interested in seeing how you will rank Ozzy versus Dio and whether any of the other vocalists will sneak in, even just on listener lists, it's a debate we've all heard before, and it would exclude Ozzy and Dio solo material. So we'd have to wait for 2 future top 20 lists, both of which may never happen. If it's determined that, like Def Leppard and Motley Crue, it's likely not worth pulling from just a select few albums. I'm not sure where Jason's going here. He continues, so I'm wondering if you'd instead give consideration to an Ozzy, to an Ozzy top 20 Sabbath that would consist of Sabbath and solo, and a Dio top 20 that would consist of Sabbath, solo, Heaven and Hell, etc. It would create a different debate, knock out both artists quicker, with the latter suggestion really drive home why he should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Thanks for listening. I look forward to listening to you. Okay, so I get where you're going, Jason. Instead of doing Sabbath as an umbrella thing, including all singers, you want to do a Dio top 20 that would make up Rainbow, Dio, Sabbath, Elf, and an Ozzy top 20 that would include solo and Sabbath. I get what you're saying, and I don't hate the idea. I just really, really like the idea of when, doing a top 20 on an artist, because it is so tough. Because it is so difficult to do. And doing Sabbath or doing Maiden are going to be so difficult to do because there's such a great, huge catalog of material to pull from. And those make for the most challenging top 20s. And although it sucks to rack your brain to get it down to just 20 songs, it does make it kind of fun because that's the challenge of it. That's what makes it so incredibly difficult. One of the things I like about doing this, though, is because Ozzy has a big solo catalog and Dio has a big solo catalog, I would like to do top 20s on them also. So maybe the move is I do Sabbath the way I want to do it, all eras, all singers. And then somewhere down the line, we do an Ozzy top 20 and a Dio top 20, and both of which can also include Sabbath songs from their respective eras. Maybe that's the way to do it, because I really like the challenge that's presented by doing Sabbath all eras, all singers, and having to cut that down to 20. I mean, you think about the Ozzy era alone and those songs. And then you're going to want to include Dio stuff, right? So what do? I mean, I love those challenges.